So let's bring things up. Start off with our agenda for today. We're going to recap. Probably rambled through that in the beginning here. Doing some stuff with a UI, generative AI to build tools that help me move thought leadership forward, kind of transcription servicey type things. I've got this Python script where it started. And I'm going to move forward. But before we do that, I think what's interesting is some of the observations I've been making about generative AI-assisted programming have been well captured in a series of newsletters. I've got the links in the description. So here, AI tooling software engineers in 2024, reality check, part 1 and part 2. I'm not a paid subscriber, so I only get part of the article, but enough to kind of give me a sense of what's happening. Maybe I should become a paid subscriber, get into it a little bit more. But basically there's a lot of hype around it. There's been some surveys. I think they surveyed about 211 developers. This is a part 1 and a part 2. I'm not going to go through the articles in great detail. But what I am going to do is go over to ChatGPT. I plugged them in, gave a little summary, talked through kind of those points, and then we're going to set about doing the Python refactoring. Oddly enough, I think there's been, if I've been reading correctly, there's been a quote-unquote secret upgrade to GPT 4.0, and whatever, I can't do the typical, at least I couldn't, maybe I can now, reference another GPT. Just isn't working anymore, which is unusual and sad because it was something I relied on quite a bit for research purposes. But I guess I'm back to plugging things in the old school way, and I guess more reason to kind of keep pushing this platform the direction I want to go with things. So I downloaded the PDFs of the 2 web pages, brought them in. Kind of the technique I was using before. I made WebCat to just directly pull on the web page. I can go chat with the GPT instance, but it just doesn't have the same feel. Maybe I'm just being lazy. I don't know. So what they did summary. I think the interesting thing here is the 2 popular tools are both Copilot and ChatGPT. So in this case, I'm using Codium. Copilot might be slightly better. Once again, it's something I have to pay for. But based on the article's description of things, kind of auto-completes and needing to correct a lot, it doesn't seem like I'm far off in experience. Other tools, Gemini, Claude, JetBrains AI, Tab 9, Cursor, Codium. Oh, Codium is mentioned. Okay, cool. Copilot and ChatGPT dominate the space, and, rightfully so. There's an interesting little quote in part 2 I might go fish out, because basically one of the engineers is saying that if you can find something that's more aware of the project context than just a few files, there's more utility there, which is what kind of this proof of concept's moving, the way we're using ChatGPT is moving towards, right? The idea is I copy and paste code in, or I get it to start. It has the full context of the files across the project. Now, this isn't some big enterprise project, and it's been around for 20 years. That's a very different thing. But it got me thinking, I'm probably going to investigate doing the thing I said I wasn't going to do, which was some kind of coding Copilot. There might be value in getting it to be able to spin those out into that, to replicate that process. Push it out to a chat session, chat dialogue to do some change, and then probably use diffs to come back and explore this concept of explainability. Ultimately, how do I get the software to better tell me what it's doing? How do I better recognize those changes? How do I know without digging in so much that things are going to work, or at the very least where to look rather than the entire file. Common workflows, Copilot in the IDE, AI-assisted debugging, picking up a new framework, new tooling. So, you got Copilot in the IDE, you got your ChatGPT instance that's helping you work through things. The reason Copilot came up so much, GitHub Copilot came up so much, was that the ability to chat in session in your IDE, which we know Codium can do, and to varying lengths, documentation, and that kind of stuff. Might be slightly more useful, but poor quality, hallucinations, incorrect or nonsensical AI output, and over-reliance on AI tools or complaints. And what's changed? The adoption has increased of AI tooling, but there's still fundamental issues. And it's a curve, right? It's a progression of improvement. I come from a farming background. My grandpa was the first out of the family, so I would have been a fifth generation farmer. He was third to use tractors instead of horses. There's a big improvement. Like there's new issues with tractors, right? Like horses are biological creatures that don't scale as well as tractors do. Tractors now require kind of mechanical adjustment. They require fuel. Like they may break down in different ways, and it's a transitioning through that type of change, learning to find the value in this thing. Now, I think with horses and tractors is probably a more apparent value proposition than necessarily AI-assisted coding. But I'm trying to find ways to make it work, and I have a way that I can kind of get it to work, and that's the inspiration for potentially exploring a small coding Copilot concept. We'll see. We'll probably tease out the proof of concept and see what it takes to integrate with VS Code. I can't imagine I'm going to go much more than that. It's kind of the environment I'm using right now. And can I do that same thing that I'm trying to do? Stagnation. People don't feel there's been a big improvement over the past year. Maybe not. We've either gotten used to it. Maybe it hasn't really improved a whole lot. I think it's improved a fair bit, especially if you do just kind of a more traditional ChatGPT type coding. There's always that getting used to something and it becoming the new baseline. And then if there's not as much improvement, then it doesn't feel like we're moving, even though maybe over the course of 18 months we've improved quite a bit. Productivity gains, this always seems to be split. Some developers report significant time saving with AI tools, allowing them to focus and do better planning. Other tools are paired in the utility for prototyping, generating new tests, and translating code between languages. I have not tried the language translation capability. Prototyping, awesome. Unit testing, I'm kind of on the fence still. I think there might be value there. Hallucinations, right? Context limitations, absolutely. And the one thing I want out of my tool when I go make it is potentially the ability to put lenses above my code to suggest refactorings, as we see here in a moment when we get into the Codium refactorings. It just says, hey, pick from the list, rather than, have you thought about doing this because it matches the style, or helping me maybe chat with, there is a chat with, but as we see in a moment, it doesn't quite work the way I would expect it to. Just a little more fluidness around the experience I have right now. But anyway, that I digress. So people are seeing these same kind of issues. Is this the part 2? People are saying it's like an autocomplete pairing with a junior intern. We didn't know search engine was at its best. We had to multi-home and try different versions. So yeah, back in the early days of Google, I remember this, using AltaVista, Ask Jeeves. Google wasn't always the best. It didn't always give you the best answer initially when it first came out. Those first few years, it was still kind of relying on the old tech. So maybe better than my horse and tractor example. From a more tangible programming perspective, this is what's happening. We're still in that transitory phase. Things should hopefully get better. Things hopefully will continue to improve, but we'll find different ways of getting it to add value. I've heard stories of people using it to kind of figure out how to do better behind the scenes quality adjustments, slight maintenance task type things that maybe get forgotten about, that maybe just don't get prioritized, likely more the case. It may not be the current incarnation that wins. Mostly positive. Most people are saying it's somewhat useful. I'd say I'd fall in that camp. It's somewhat useful. 20 years in, I'm just looking for things to help me move faster. I'm not looking for things to do my thinking per se, even though it is nice to use it as an ideation tool in certain instances. Useful for debugging, getting through things. Can save a lot of time. Code completions have been around. Bit skeptical, so it's fairly good augmentation. My 30 years of experience, I tend to fall more on this end of the spectrum, both in terms of experience and opinion. I guess 30 years if you count programming for fun as a kid. 22 otherwise, or is it 23 now? I don't remember. It's been too many times. Solid choice for prototyping and getting started. I would say that aligns. Good for research and learning. Interactive paired programming. Let's scroll through some of this. I want to find. Some people are unimpressed. Copy and paste output. Copy and paste has been around since forever. Like, really, that's just it. Work on custom stacks or novel architectures. Agreed. It's not trained to do that. Maybe that's an issue of fine-tuning. Maybe there's better models. I don't know. I'd love to get a tool where I can start switching the model back end out. Maybe that's the very least what my my Copilot would be. Need to think of a good name for it. Don't use context beyond file level. I would agree. I find these coding tools, they're pretty restricted. And like I said, I've got a workflow. I want to try and replicate a few of those pieces, just as an experiment to harness, just as another prototype to push out, another thing to explore. Because I think we're getting towards the point where what I'm doing with this tool, there's still probably pieces I can still use generative AI for, but I'm starting to get to that stage where the project's getting big, and its utility is definitely starting to diminish. But there's still value in working with things and finding some new techniques and modularizing stuff and keeping it small. Where is that? It's extremely useful, but it has its limitations. I get the best results when I use it to fill in the blanks. Asking it to write a whole class or an entire test file is dangerous because it'll give you something that looks right. However you dig in, there's all kinds of things that just don't work. But it's gotten noticeably better since the early days. Agreed. 100% agree with this person, about 25 years of experience. Pretty close to where I am. I trust enough now that if I lay out the code, set up the class names, import the method and parameters, I can just kind of tab through the details with double checking and chunking each chunk it gives me. That's interesting. Hallucination still a problem. Lowered my few devs. Where was the one? There was a quote in here. Oh, okay. There's not yet a good tool with the speed, quality, and developer experience of GitHub Copilot, which is aware of full context, interfaces, types, patterns, file structure, and asking questions without leaving the IDE. They've tried GitHub Copilot X, which is kind of like a web-based IDE that's meant to get there, but it's definitely not there yet. They would pay for a tool that solves this problem smoothly. At the same time, they can't confirm anything else in terms of speed and quality of its autocomplete. So maybe I should give it a chance. Maybe there's a whole session there and just get the subscription for a month and working with it, comparing it to Codium. I don't think whatever I'm going to build will necessarily tackle that space very well, but like I said, it'll give me a framework with which to explore. So that's kind of the motivation to look at doing the refactoring. Let's just go back to our to-do. We've looked at these two factors right here. Trying to figure out, whatever people think of it. Does it align to my opinion? Am I far out? Am I in La La Land? Maybe some of it's restricted to the language I'm using. I'm using Python. Can't say I'm super familiar with Python. I've written enough now. But it'd be nice. I know I can't go refactor and say move to new file. Cannot find the symbol to move. And I in previous session, well, not recorded session, but coding session, went to ChatGPT and asked if there were tools, and it's an issue in Python. Ooh, excuse me. So there is this interesting little option here called, refactor. So if I go here, I can tell it to do something. Let's like extract this into its own file under services / transcription. So I'm trying to ask it to break this out into its no file. I'm going to submit it to Codium. It's going to give me a command, refactor into its own file under, okay, so that's the prompt. If I accept this, the code basically just disappears. Sadly, there. That's from a previous version. You can ignore that. That's I'm on a get status. Yeah, I'm on an older branch. I did do this refactoring with ChatGPT, which we'll get to in a second. But effectively, there's nothing here. You can see if I do it, I get status, get diff. It's just going to tell me that the class is basically missing. Q branch, just make sure, yeah, get reset hard. So it didn't do what I wanted it to, which was to basically break all of this out, update the imports, and carry on. Now, there might be different ways of trying to do this. I just get the sense that at least with Python in Visual Studio, it's not going to work very well. So what I did do earlier was to go over to here. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. Over to ChatGPT and say, given this file, this large app.py file, refactored into classes, into the path, services, transcription, and adjust the imports, emit each file, including this one with changes. So I've had to go to ChatGPT and ask it to do this thing because Codium just doesn't seem to understand. Maybe it's a model issue. Maybe it's not. It's likely because it doesn't have the accessibility, the tools to make file system changes that way. That's something I'll probably have to consider in my coding Copilot. I have no idea what I'm going to call it. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea, actually. So here's into separate files within the services transcription directory, break down and include the main sources. So it's telling me what it's going to do. It's going to make a directory. It's going to put things here. It's telling me why, initialize the init.py, keep it empty, or include the imports for easier access if needed. So here's the file. So git checkout main. So here's the main. Here's the services we saw there. Here's the file. Cool. So it's a matter of creating the new directory structure, putting in the file, copying and pasting the contents. And there's some interesting space to play here with tools and some other. It's another test harness to kind of play with generative AI concepts, right? It may not get it perfect, it may not get it awesome, but it starts to explore some of the limitations of what it can do versus what I need it to do, even in a really simple use case where it would have been nice to just chat with the file and say, do this, rather than copying it in. I found a loop. I found a loop that works, and now I want to refine that loop, and I want to make it a little bit easier. And I want to build a really specific tool to help me with that, because I've got a real narrow workflow here. Nothing's wrong with Codium and all the other things. It's just not fitting my needs. I'm unlikely to maybe experience something of this depth in a non-POC project, but I find a lot of my POC projects go this way. They start off with some really simple, narrow concept, and then I move forward and refactor, and I go. So I did that, and then I took out the transcription service, I copied and I pasted, and then you gotta delete the line because it's kind of weird and annoying. But the imports generally worked, and if I needed to within here, you can go simply quick fix the problem, import it if it needs to, because if it got a little confused. So some of the additional tooling that's available in the IDE is helping accelerate that. But it'd be nice to just, like I said, chat with the file and it's done. That would have been it, and it would have worked. One of the reasons I have this pre-refactor branch is so as I build out the coding assistant, I can go back to a point in time and work with it, and just to get it to do that thing. It's probably all it's going to be. Like I said, figuring out what kind of tools or capabilities it needs to make that happen. And then, next class, refactoring it out. Here's the transcription factory, the get service, and then it's giving me the new app.py file. Which was great. So, it all came together. Let's go do this. Our little liquid death test script here. And it ran the first time. Like, I tried manually refactoring this, and to be honest, it took me longer and didn't get quite right. Manually refactoring versus asking ChatGPT to do it and copying and pasting it. So there is definitely a few little cases here where it was super useful. I can see the transcript. It came out awesome. So we got through kind of the core refactorings. We got things into classes. we're making it a bit more modular, but it would be really nice if I could break this up into, I don't know, its own class. Can I parse this into further classes and have a smaller app? Something that maybe only does the command line stuff and then calls into the rest of it. So I can take a further step at bringing in the SRT adjust and the VTT adjust, because remember, these also need to move into classes and be brought into this space. So now that we're here, it's got the full context of what's happening. I'm going to shrink this window a little bit. I'm going to go, okay, cool, thanks. Can we break up the app.py into its own class, leaving the line parsing and emitting here. Moving the core logic out into services slash audio. So I'm asking it to basically take the audio transcription piece of this and move it out into a different service. It's giving me the full rundown of what's here, and it'd just be nice to have that kind of more chat with context, right? Like, I get the super autocomplete, that's fantastic. I'm not looking to compete with that. I just want a little bit more fluid chat experience. Audio service, and this is nice because now if I ever wanted to change this audio service out for whatever reason, I wanted to rewrite it, I wanted to do something different, it becomes so much simpler. Okay, so I've got the transcribe audio segment and the transcribe audio. Now it's giving me a much, much simpler version of things here. All right, that's a good step forward. There's still a lot of logic in here. Like, never mind that the audio. So let me just ask it. Okay. So can we break up the audio download and extraction from the transcription in the service and move more of the, what logic is this? Local file versus web link into something else, keeping app up simple and clean. Because then it starts to feel a bit more like that paired programming concept, that navigator, where I'm instructing my partner in programming here to do something. Okay, cool. So, there's some concepts. I'm trying to tease out concepts. I'm trying to do some solid principles. What would be really cool is, like, if it suggested that, if it was aware of that. Maybe there's just a simple way of keeping that prompt there. I don't know. I'm looking forward to kind of further expanding some of this. Okay, audio downloader, audio service. So let's go look here. What do I need? I need an audio service. So we've got services, I go new folder, long focus, services, new folder, audio. Awesome. Inside audio, new file, underscore init, underscore .py. I've got an audio downloader. Okay. So I'm going to go, this was the process. I'm going to go copy it, go new file, paste, new file. I wish I knew what the focus issue was. I'm going to copy the code. Now, I've given it most of this code. I don't think it's done anything funky with it. And if it has, I guess I'll have to figure that out. Okay, so then I got to go strip that out and save it. Done. Okay, now I've got a file handler. I'm going to go copy that, go new file. So it's giving me the explainability, but it would be really nice let's say if it had just done a diff, it had made the first version, I'd ask it. I know there's a commander, I believe, a command line tool that's a little bit more in the stream of what I'm looking for. And it's been a while, so maybe I need to go revisit that, see what lessons are there, see how they're structuring things. Just, you know, the more tools I build, the more code I've gotta maintain, right? File types and checks, and then an audio service. So copy that, every file. But you know, the utility here has been in getting it to work as one small script. I think at one point we had 20 or 30 lines to get this whole project going. And now it's turning into a full-fledged UI and API and, you know, sub-processing here in Python type system. And here's the app.py. Okay, we're going to get to the VTT. We're going to get this all loaded up to the point. Didn't hit the continue generate button, and it's going to be incomplete code. Okay. Copy, paste. Let's run our test script. Oh. Optional, not defined. Audio downloader. See? Okay. Quick fix. New unused imports. That cleans things up quite a bit. Let's see. It looks like it might be working. Minimal adjustments. Minimal. I was able to use the IDE to get there, right? Like, so the whole thing is I haven't gone and done a lot of manual typing, and the one time I did off screen for this, it really didn't work very well. It would have taken me much longer to do that. Now, I don't know how often this use case happens, right? Like I said, this is likely something that's reserved, like, very likely for this kind of proof of concept out type of work. Didn't take that off either. Git add, git commit. Broke out audio classes. Push. And branch, make sure we're on main. I really hope we're not on the pre-refactored. Okay, cool. So we've got this much smaller thing. Things are broken into services. It's a little more modular. I really like the way this is all coming together. Now, it would be really nice is if I could transition over to, I don't know, say the SRT adjust and go, hey, I want this to be post-processed in app.py if it's an SRT translation, and make this a class, and then just have it do the refactoring. Show me, approve, done, right? Small little kind of PR type interactions. Who knows? Who knows? I've got too many ideas and not enough time these days. Okay, cool. Now I need this file. Notice how I start, paste it, and then give it the rest of the context. Converted into a class and called from app.py when transcription. So let's see what it does. I'm kind of making a bigger request here than I normally do. All right, so things are happening, things are going on. Where am I at? Okay, I'm about half an hour. Just checking time. You know, I like to keep these at about an hour long, just because it's the time I have to commit to this. Okay, so it's going to do that. Here's how I can adjust this. You know, the nice thing about command line, like it's going to integrate with the API, makes it simple. At some point, these are going to be pushed into running as containerized instances in Azure as we move forward. So So there's still some room to go. We still have to go through the DevOps process of getting things there out and up and running. What is the structure now? But we're working with it. You know, we found a way that works. It's odd, it kind of aligns to some of the feedback out in the industry, and it's given us another little prototype to play with. Okay, cool. And now it's giving me all kinds of awesome information that I really appreciate. So this is the SRT adjust, copy. We come over here, we go to our audio services, we do new file, we paste that. Oh, I don't think I got something right there. Copy, audio, new file. Oh, audio, new file, third time we'll get it right. All right, SRT adjust. Go paste that in there. Okay, so this is no longer an additional script that needs to be run. It is expecting it as file write lines. Okay, so it's going to write it out. Okay, and then I want to see what it did for the app. Oh, okay, adjusted timings. I need to give it a little feedback where I say need to return the adjusted transcript if it was invoked. Wow. Some version of invoked, I guess. Typing's not doing great. Cool. So just a small. Remember, I'm not writing much of this code. I'm just prompting it. That's the goal here. I'm sure this could all be cleaned up and refactored a bit, but that'd be nice. Then I wouldn't have to copy and paste and keep its context. I could just from the IDE do little refactorings, push it into a new thread, continue the discussion. The command transcript text to. It's not doing great. Needs a little bit of hinting, which at this stage it probably would have been faster for me to fix in the IDE, right? Someone's not getting it, they're not getting it. While you're pairing with them, sometimes it is easier to just say, "Hey, can I have the keyboard for 5 minutes?" and kind of show you what I'm talking about. Same kind of situation here. I do like it continuing to use files, at least at this level. It's nice to see the artifacts. It's nice to see things work as we go through. Okay, so we're going to copy that out into the app. Some weird autocomplete suggestions there. Which one am I having it do? This is an SRT. Perfect. We'll probably need to change that to VTT when we get to the VTT adjust. We would say prompt incoming path URL title service incoming adjusted transcript adjusted. We should output it as what? Oh, wrong one. I was so confused. This is the SRT adjuster. Okay, so this has got all the thingies. Oh, app here is going to do the actual calling. And if it's this, adjusted.srt. Fantastic. So took a little back and forth, but we got there eventually. Like I said, looking forward to building that tool. It's going to just make it a little bit more streamlined. And then I can just say and do the same thing for this VTT adjust. Class into a class integrated the same in app.py and emit directory structure. So I think one of the pieces of feedback in that the Pragmatic Engineer's newsletter was, how do you get the right prompt? Finding the wrong prompt could be difficult. I would agree, and that's why it's nice to be able to iterate, do small things, right? Kind of get the feedback, accept or reject type things. I often, the gap is usually more around the writing the code, time to write code, speed at which I can type, basically, versus what I need to do, at least for me these days. All right. Okay. What's if it's doing some stuff? So see, it's nice that we trimmed down this app. It's already getting pretty bloated with all the post-processing stuff. New file. Oh, and new file. I'm gonna get there. VTT adjust. Oh, I like it. Just I'm gonna be sad because getting the same level of things potentially in the into here might be a little more complicated than I'm hoping for. But you know what? We're building tools. We're trying to integrate Gen AI into our lives, and this is the net result. Cool. And then copy the app. Paste that. I don't really like the service stuff, but I'll live with it. We're moving forward. Args.service. Oh no, it does need to be that or that. Okay, get status, clear. Okay, OpenAI. I should probably have made a smaller prompt at this stage, but we'll live with it. We're going to go back and do the VTT. Once we know that it works, we're going to commit, and then we're going to do a few small refactorings. Now, I'd say a lot of this is possible because, I've got a lot of experience to lean on, and it's just trying to get the ideas out of my head faster than I could type. All right, looks like we got it working. Git add, git commit, SRT and VTT now included in app.py. That can go bye-bye, and that can go bye-bye, and we'll do a git add, git commit, and removed standalone VTT and SRT scripts, git push, fantastical. All right, and now I'm just going to come back and ask it something quite frankly, not none, and I'm just going to be like, can you move these into the service.py? Can I move it there? Is that a reasonable request? Are not in the app.py anymore. So I want to kind of encapsulate that. I want to push it back closer to its use. It's kind of a weird post-processing concept, and it's legacy. It's kind of how I would have invoked it before, right? Get it, rerun the script to realign things, and go. I know there are services that does stuff for free, right? Like this is an example. This is a prototype. This is an opportunity to learn. This is about building my own tools to go out and do the things I need to do to keep moving this all forward. So certainly I'm going to do adjustment in the audio service class. This will keep the clean and focused and orchestrating the process, leaving the detailed logic in the service class. So it understood what I was going for. It's like, yeah, that's perfect. I just asked for it to move. I refactor the audio service to include adjustments. Okay, so here's the audio service. I think that's complete, yeah. Right. That goes away. Quick fix, remove all unused imports. And I kind of get to lock into these, right? I much prefer being able to kind of go, oh, yep, boom, boom. Use the updated app. I'm not relying on some funky strings. This is nice and tidy again. Right, you know, given all the things it needs to do, that seems very acceptable at this stage. It's not an undo these things. We'll run the SRT. It's the one I tend to use the most because it's what I know YouTube takes. I think it takes the it doesn't do like VTT for some reason. Don't know a ton about this world. Get status, get add, get commit, move VTT and SRT adjustments into service class. Okay. Things are nice and encapsulated. It all runs. It does its thing. Take out that. Cleanup that needs to happen here. Let me just say the output from running it. Any further adjustments to be made. So capture the logging output. I'm just going to ask it, is working as expected. So as likely plain text, you should handle it accordingly. Attempt to parse it as JSON. Update code to handle responses. Which file needs to change? Cool, so it's helping me further define, like I saw that issue before. Modify the audio service, fantastic. Because, you know, I'm just running it. I'm not vetting every single line of this. Let's close that off. Oh, here's how you can modify it. Oh, it's going to probably do all the work for me. Wouldn't it be nice, though, if it was just a diff, just a small diff? You could approve it. PR type concept, small little PRs. This method is just is plain text. So okay, let's see. Audio service seems like a sensible set of things. Clear. SRT. Okay, still kind of getting the same stuff. Let's go check the log file. Oh, I didn't do the right thing. Kind of clean that up, did I? Let's make sure that it's not going into this one as well, because I don't know if it knew. I did lose it. Okay. That needs to have the date in the file name. Oh, okay. There we go. Getting a little help here. Wouldn't it be nice though? Highlight, chat. Maybe that's taking it a bit further. Probably not. That seems like that would be kind of a core requirement. And the more I do this, the more I'm getting stuck into potentially. I see quick fix, import date time. That's not the right way. I know that from experience. So we'll do that. Clear. SRT. That looks like the right one. I still get this. See, you know, then I could go revert some of those commits that were unaligned to the change. So if I made a set of changes that didn't do the work, I could revert and say that didn't work. I don't know. It seems like there's a little stream of interesting things there. Audio service transcribe. Okay. So let's go delete that. Updated to include date and log. Okay, so it's not perfect, but it's better. So it's telling me I need to change this. Yep, that didn't go the right way. And we'll run that again. See what happens here. I think feels like they've made some changes. That doesn't seem like the right place. Okay. I'm gonna leave it there. I don't quite get it. All right, so we've done some refactoring. It does the thing. I guess the next thing would be to for me to refire all this back up, make sure it works. Don't think I'm going to do that today. I got some other stuff I need to possibly get to here soon. But anyway, we did some Python refactoring with ChatGPT. We've come up with a really interesting new idea for another project. But before we get to the next project, I'd like to get this pushed and deployed to the cloud in some variation. And then I'll likely continue to work on it. And then the next thing would be kind of this coding Copilot concept that just offers a real simple diff chat with type thing to replicate this workflow. At the very least, all I use it for is to continue building this tooling. That would be cool. That would be awesome. All right, well, so let's go back to our list. Did we get everything done today? We did actually get everything done today, which is unusual. We recapped, we reviewed the state of AI coding assistance, found similar gripes in the community to what we have, and possibly found a new little project to continue pushing this out on. Awesome. Well, I hope you all found this useful and informative, and you have a great day. Thank you all. Bye.